Vallée des Fantômes, a remote and chilling valley nestled deep in the French countryside, is a place few dare to venture into. The land here seems to pulse with an eerie, unnatural energy, its soil steeped in history and sorrow. Locals who have lived on the outskirts of this cursed land for centuries speak of it in hushed tones, careful not to say too much, lest they draw the attention of the phantoms that are said to haunt the valley. It is a place where time itself appears to stand still, trapped between the realms of the living and the dead. The first whispers of its haunted nature began with an event so horrific that the valley's name became forever tied to the sorrow and tragedy that unfolded within its borders. Long ago, a plague devastated a small village that lay at the foot of the valley. It was a time when medical knowledge was scarce, and fear spread faster than the illness itself. People were desperate, and in their desperation they sought refuge in the valley, believing it to be a sanctuary from the disease. But the valley, with its dense fogs and oppressive silence, offered no salvation. So, we say men, the villagers, sick and frail, wandered deeper into the valley's heart, hoping to escape the horrors of their world. But they did not know that the valley had its own dark secrets, and it was hungry for souls. The villagers who sought refuge there never returned, and no trace of them was ever found. As the years passed, rumors began to circulate that the valley was cursed. It became known as Vallée des Fantômes, the Valley of the Lost Souls. Those who ventured too close to the valley's edge began to speak of strange noises emanating from within, the sounds of distant cries, mournful wails, and whispered words that could never quite be understood. Some claimed to see ghostly figures drifting in the mist, their forms faint but unmistakable. These phantoms, they said, were the spirits of the lost villagers who had wandered into the valley, never to return. For those brave enough or foolish enough to step into the valley, the experience was unlike anything they had ever known. The air grows thick with a strange, oppressive weight, and every footstep seems to echo louder than it should. Shadows move unnaturally, creeping across the land like living things, and the mist clings to everything, making it hard to see more than a few feet in front of you. In some places the fog is so dense that it feels as though the very ground beneath your feet could suddenly give way to a void, an endless chasm leading to the underworld. The temperature drops unexpectedly, and a sense of foreboding fills the air. Many who entered never came back, and those who did returned with haunting tales of the spirits that lingered in the valley, stories that chilled the bones of those who listened. The valley seems to warp time as well. Hours can feel like minutes, and minutes can stretch into hours, leaving a disorienting sense of confusion. The once vibrant landscape is now withered, twisted, and forever caught in an unnatural stillness. The trees, gnarled and twisted, stand like ancient sentinels, their branches reaching out like bony fingers, and the ground is littered with remnants of the past, forgotten trinkets, faded ribbons, and broken objects that seem to tell stories of lives once lived, but long since erased. But the valley's true power lies not just in the unsettling atmosphere or the mysterious disappearances. It lies in the whispers, the voices that seem to drift from the very earth itself. Locals speak of hearing faint cries on the wind, voices that carry the weight of centuries of suffering. Some claim to have heard their names whispered in the mist, as though the valley is aware of their presence, as though it has been waiting for them. These voices are not just the wind, they are the spirits of those lost to the valley's embrace, trapped in an eternal limbo between life and death. It is said that these voices will sometimes call out to travelers, offering a glimpse into the past or trying to lure them deeper into the valley, where the veil between worlds is thinnest. Yet, despite the terror that lurks within Vallée des Fantômes, some still find themselves drawn to its haunting beauty. There are those who believe that the valley holds answers, that the ghosts of the past have something to teach the living. They come with cameras, with notebooks, with the intention of uncovering the secrets that the valley guards so fiercely. But the valley does not give up its secrets easily. For every answer it offers, it takes more in return. The valley demands a price, whether it be your sanity, your sense of time, or your very soul. No one who enters ever leaves unchanged, if they leave at all. As the sun sets and the shadows stretch long across the valley floor, the mist begins to rise, creeping like a living thing, swirling around the trees and stones, hiding the secrets of the lost souls. The whispers grow louder, more insistent. The air grows colder, and for those who stand at the edge of Vallée des Fantômes, it is impossible to ignore the feeling that something is watching them, something ancient and hungry, waiting for the next soul to wander into its grasp. This is not just a valley. This is a place where the living and the dead are forever intertwined, a place where the past will never be forgotten, and the lost souls of the valley will always linger, waiting for their next victim to wander too close. The wind in Vallée des Fantômes is not like any other wind. It is a presence, an entity of its own, moving through the valley with purpose, as though it is carrying the voices of the past on its breath. The locals often speak of the eerie whispers that accompany the wind, the faint murmurs that seem to float on the breeze, drifting through the trees, across the water and over the hills. These whispers are not natural. They are not the sound of leaves rustling or branches creaking under the weight of the wind. No, these whispers are something far more sinister, something ancient. A chorus of voices that seem to rise from the earth itself, as though the very soil of the valley is alive with the souls of the long dead. Those who have ventured too far into the heart of the valley report hearing these whispers more clearly, often in places where the mist is thickest and the shadows the deepest. They say it starts quietly, almost imperceptibly, as a soft murmur that might be mistaken for the wind itself. But as the seconds pass, the whispers grow louder, more distinct, and with each breath of the wind, the voices seem to grow closer. It is as though the valley is speaking, telling its secrets to those brave or foolish enough to listen. The voices are often indecipherable, fragments of words and phrases that are lost to time, but occasionally they form coherent sentences, calling out names, pleading for help, or warning travelers to leave before it's too late. It is said that the wind is not only a carrier of voices, but a messenger of sorts, delivering the cries and regrets of those who died within the valley. The souls of the lost villagers, the spirits trapped in the mist, are believed to ride the wind, their sorrow and despair woven into its every gust. The wind is their conduit, the bridge between the world of the living and the world of the dead. As with so many human feelings, the wind is their conduit, the bridge between the world of the living and the world of the dead. As it blows, the voices of the past come to life, filling the valley with the echoes of a forgotten time. Some say the wind carries the memories of the valley itself, memories of the plague, of the desperate flight of the villagers, and of the sinister forces that drew them deeper into its grasp. There are stories of travelers who, upon hearing the whispers, began to follow the wind's calls, believing them to be the voices of lost loved ones or the spirits of those who once lived in the valley. But those who follow the wind are rarely seen again. It is as if the voices are not meant to be followed but to be heard and then left behind. Those who disobey this silent command often find themselves lost, wandering the valley in circles, unable to escape the grip of the wind. The further they walk, the louder the whispers grow, until the voices are so overwhelming that they drown out all other sound, and the traveler is left with nothing but the relentless cacophony of the past. Some claim to have heard their own name called on the wind, a chilling echo of their own voice mixed in with the others. It is as if the valley knows them, as if it recognizes their presence and calls out to them. These moments are fleeting but terrifying, a reminder that the valley is not a place that simply forgets. It remembers, and it watches. There are those who have listened too long, who have lingered too long in the presence of these whispers. They speak of a sensation that overtakes them, a feeling of being drawn in, as if the wind itself is beckoning them closer to some unseen force. Some say it feels like a compulsion, a pull that becomes impossible to resist. They describe a sensation of coldness settling over them, as if the very air is sucking the warmth from their body, and with it their willpower. The whispers become more urgent, more insistent, as if they are trying to communicate something of great importance, something that the listener must understand, no matter the cost. There are stories of those who return from the valley, changed, unable to explain what they heard. Their eyes often seem distant, their voices hushed, and they are never quite the same as they were before. It is as if the whispers of the valley have altered them, leaving behind a mark that can never be erased. For some, the whispers continue long after they have left the valley's boundaries, carried by the wind wherever they go, an unsettling reminder of the voices they heard and the curse that lingers in the air. The valley's winds, with their haunting voices, are not just a product of nature. They are a manifestation of something far darker, something ancient and bound to the land itself. They are the echoes of a time long past, of souls trapped in a never-ending cycle of regret and despair. The wind is both their prison and their voice, carrying the weight of their torment across the valley and beyond. And for those who are willing to listen, the price of hearing those voices is steep. It is said that to truly hear the whispers of the past is to become part of the valley, to become one of the lost souls who are forever bound to its winds. The valley calls to those who are not afraid to listen. But it does so with a warning, one that is as ancient as the winds themselves. For those who dare to linger too long, for those who seek answers in the whispers of the past, may find themselves lost, their names forgotten by time, their voices joining the others in the wind, carried away by the same cursed breeze that whispers across the Vallée des Fantômes. And so the valley remains, a place where the living and the dead are forever intertwined, and the winds carry the voices of those who will never be silenced. Hidden deep within the treacherous folds of Vallée des Fantômes lies a place that even the bravest of souls avoid, an ancient village, long abandoned, where the passage of time has left its eerie mark. It is known as the Forgotten Village, a place lost to both history and memory, and yet, despite the centuries that have passed, it remains remarkably intact. The stone buildings, though weathered and decaying, still stand, their skeletal frames casting long shadows across the overgrown streets. The windows, long since shattered, seem to stare blankly out at the world, and the once thriving market square now lies empty, save for the ghosts of the past that still wander its silent roads. No one truly knows the origins of the village, but the stories that circulate speak of a tight-knit community that lived and thrived within the valley, oblivious to the dark forces that stirred beneath the surface of their peaceful existence. It is said that the village was a place where people lived in harmony with the land, working the soil, raising families, and sharing in the joys of life. But this idyllic existence would not last. For reasons unknown, a devastating plague began to spread through the village, taking the lives of its residents one by one. As the sickness gripped the town, a sense of fear and hopelessness filled the air. Desperate to escape the disease, the villagers fled into the valley, seeking refuge in the mist-covered landscape. But none of them were ever seen again. The village was abandoned, its streets empty, its homes left to rot. Over the years, the village faded from memory. It became nothing more than a forgotten ruin, swallowed up by the ever-encroaching mist and the dense foliage of the valley. But those who dare to enter the valley still speak of the forgotten village in hushed tones, for there is something deeply unsettling about it. It is not just the eerie silence that blankets the place, nor the sense of abandonment that hangs heavy in the air. It is the feeling that something still lingers there, something that has never truly left, and that something is watching, waiting. On rare occasions, when the mist is thick and the wind carries a chill through the valley, the forgotten village comes alive again. Travelers who wander too far from the beaten path have reported hearing sounds drifting from the village. Soft, mournful cries, the creaking of old wooden doors, the distant shuffle of footsteps in the streets. But when they approach, they find the village empty, its buildings silent and still. There are no people, no animals, no sign of life, only the remnants of the past, frozen in time, as though the village is trapped in some kind of eternal loop, replaying the horrors of its final days over and over again. Some say that the village is not as abandoned as it seems, that the spirits of the dead still roam its streets, trapped in an endless cycle of unrest. The souls of the villagers who perished in the plague are believed to haunt the place, their spirits unable to move on. These restless phantoms are said to wander the streets, looking for something they lost. Perhaps a loved one, perhaps their own peace. But no one who has seen them has ever returned to tell the tale. Those who come too close are often drawn into the village by an unseen force, their steps quickening, their hearts pounding with a sense of urgency. It is as if the village itself beckons them, calling them deeper into its heart, where the shadows are thick and the air is suffocating with sorrow. The buildings of the village stand as hollow reminders of the lives that once were. The homes are eerily preserved, their interiors frozen in time, as though the villagers simply vanished in the blink of an eye. Furniture remains in place, dusty but undisturbed, as though the people who lived there expected to return. In the town square, a well stands at the center, its stone walls cracked and worn, yet still standing firm. It is said that if you peer into the well at night, you might catch a glimpse of something moving beneath the surface, a shadow flickering in the depths, but no one has ever been brave enough to investigate further. Some say that the well holds the souls of the dead, that the spirits are drawn to its depths, seeking solace in the darkness below. As night falls, the forgotten village takes on an even more sinister air. The mist rolls in thicker, cloaking the streets in an impenetrable veil. The village becomes a labyrinth of shadows, where every corner hides something unknown, and every creaking door or rustling window sends a shiver down the spine. The air grows colder, heavier, as if the very weight of the valley is pressing down on the village. And still, the footsteps of the dead echo through the streets, their restless movements carrying on the wind like a distant, mournful cry. Some who have ventured into the village have reported strange occurrences. Objects moved without explanation, cold spots that seem to follow them, and a feeling of being constantly watched. There are whispers of figures appearing at the windows of the abandoned houses, fleeting glimpses of pale faces staring out from the darkness, their eyes filled with longing or sorrow. Everyone knows something is wrong. Others speak of hearing their names called out in the dead of night, soft and distant, like a voice on the wind, a voice that belongs to someone they cannot see. The forgotten village is a place where the line between the living and the dead is blurred, where the past refuses to stay buried. It is a place of sorrow, of lost souls trapped in a never-ending cycle of despair. The village, though abandoned, is not truly empty. It is alive with the spirits of those who once lived there, their presence felt in every whisper of the wind, in every shadow that flits through the mist. And for those who enter, the price of discovering its secrets may be higher than they ever imagined. For in the forgotten village, the dead do not rest. They wait, forever roaming the streets in search of something lost, something that will never be found. There are few places as unnervingly mysterious as Vallée des Fantômes, but even among its many legends and secrets, there is one that stands out, one that has haunted the valley for generations. In the dead of night, when the mist rolls in thick and heavy, the phantom shadows emerge. These dark figures are a terror to those unfortunate enough to cross their path. But they are not merely ghosts or apparitions. They are something far more sinister, something that exists between the world of the living and the realm of the dead. The phantom shadows are often seen near the edges of the valley, where the mist is thickest and the air feels unnaturally cold. Those who have witnessed them describe them as dark, formless shapes that move swiftly through the fog, their movements deliberate yet fluid, as though they are not bound by the laws of nature. Their forms are never fully visible, but they are unmistakable. The breadth of their mind caresses, their wits revealed. They appear as shadows, tall, menacing silhouettes that blend seamlessly with the mist, leaving only the sense that something unnatural is moving just out of sight. It is said that they are not bound by physical form, that they are able to shift and twist with the fog, slipping between the spaces where the living and the dead converge. There are many theories about the origins of the phantom shadows, but none can explain their true nature. Some believe they are the spirits of the villagers who died in the valley, their restless souls forever trapped in the mist, unable to move on. Others say they are something older, something far more ancient, drawn to the valley by its dark energy and its history of death. Some claim that they are manifestations of the valley itself, the land's sorrow and anger taking physical form in the shape of these dark figures. No one knows for sure, but those who have encountered the phantom shadows are rarely the same afterward. The first sightings of the phantom shadows were reported by travelers who had ventured into the valley during the night. These brave souls, seeking adventure, or perhaps unaware of the valley's dark reputation, spoke of an overwhelming sense of dread that washed over them as soon as they crossed into the heart of the mist. At first it seemed like any other foggy night, with the usual silence and stillness that hung in the air. But as they ventured further into the valley, they began to notice movement in the mist. Dark shapes flitting in and out of the shadows, their forms shifting too quickly to catch a clear glimpse. Some described the figures as tall, others as low to the ground, but all of them shared one common trait: an unsettling, malevolent energy that seemed to emanate from them. Those who have encountered the phantom shadows describe a profound feeling of being hunted. It is as though the shadows are aware of their presence, following them with an eerie precision. The figures never speak, but their very presence is enough to send a chill down the spine. Their movements are slow at first, but as the shadows grow bolder, they quicken, always staying just out of reach. Some claim to have felt a strange pull, as though the shadows were beckoning them deeper into the valley, leading them toward something darker, something they could never fully understand. Others speak of hearing whispers carried on the wind, voices that sound both distant and close, urging them to look over their shoulders, to turn and face what they know is behind them. There are reports of people becoming disoriented in the presence of the phantom shadows, losing track of time and direction as the fog grows thicker. The valley, it seems, warps under the influence of these dark figures. The landscape becomes distorted and the familiar landmarks of the valley vanish into the mist, leaving travelers helpless and lost. The phantom shadows move with purpose, guiding their prey deeper into the unknown, where the dangers of the valley are at their greatest. And then, when the fog reaches its densest point, when the shadows have driven the wanderer to the brink of madness, they vanish. The mist clears, the valley falls silent, and the person is left with nothing but the memory of the dark figures that pursued them. The phantom shadows are not just physical manifestations. They are the embodiment of the valley's darkest secrets. Those who have encountered them often speak of a profound sense of unease, a feeling that the shadows know something they do not, something hidden within the valley, something that must remain buried. There are rumors of people who have disappeared after seeing the phantom shadows, vanishing without a trace, as if they were swallowed up by the mist itself. The shadows, some believe, are not merely trying to scare their victims. They are taking them, leading them into the very heart of the valley, where the spirits of the past linger and the secrets of the dead lie waiting to be uncovered. But there is another theory, that the phantom shadows are not entirely of this world. They may be creatures of the mist itself, born of the valley's dark energy, or perhaps even sentient beings that feed on fear and despair. They are not merely the restless souls of the past. They are predators, stalking the valley for any who dare to enter their domain. The mist that cloaks the valley acts as their veil, hiding them from view, allowing them to slip between the realms of the living and the dead with ease. For those unlucky enough to encounter them, the experience is one that lingers long after they have left the valley. The feeling of being watched, of being hunted, follows them, creeping into their dreams and their waking hours. There are stories of people who, after encountering the phantom shadows, began to hear the whispers in their own homes, see fleeting glimpses of dark figures in their peripheral vision, and feel the oppressive presence of something watching them in the night. Some believe that the shadows are not content to remain in the valley, that they can follow their victims long after they have left, their dark influence seeping into the world beyond the mist. It is as if the valley is alive, and it will never let go of those who enter it. Thoughts that the phantom shadows of Vallée des Fantômes are not mere legends or figments of imagination. They are real, terrifying, and relentless. They are the embodiment of the valley's darkness, a darkness that refuses to be forgotten, a darkness that will always remain. For as long as the mist rolls through the valley, the phantom shadows will continue to emerge from the fog, waiting for the next soul to wander too close to their domain. And for those who dare to face them, the only certainty is that the valley will never let them go. In the heart of Vallée des Fantômes there flows a river that winds its way through the valley like a serpentine ribbon of dark water, its surface seemingly calm and inviting. But beneath the tranquility lies an ancient and malevolent force, one that has claimed the lives of many who dared to venture too close. The river, known to locals as the Black Stream, is both a natural wonder and a terrifying enigma. For while it appears peaceful and serene on the surface, those who have dared to look deeper have found that there is something far darker lurking beneath. The river's origin is shrouded in mystery, and many believe it to be a cursed waterway, one that has long been the site of untold tragedies. Some say the Black Stream was formed by the tears of the villagers who perished in the valley, their sorrow and grief giving birth to the river that now flows with a dark, murky water. Others claim that the river has always been a source of death, a cruel and unforgiving force that drags those who come too close into its depths. Regardless of its origin, there is one thing that is certain. The Black Stream is no ordinary river. Over the years, countless stories have circulated about the strange and unsettling phenomena that occur along its banks. People who have ventured too close to the water's edge have reported hearing strange noises emanating from beneath the surface, faint splashing sounds, gurgling bubbles, and the unsettling feeling of being watched. But it is when the mist rolls in and the valley falls into an unnatural silence that the true horror of the river reveals itself. Those who have crossed the river or tried to navigate its dark waters speak of a force that pulls at them, something unseen but undeniably powerful, tugging them toward the depths as though the river itself is alive. There have been reports of travelers being dragged into the water, their cries for help swallowed by the rushing current, their bodies never to be seen again. The river has a reputation for claiming the lives of those who are unprepared, whose curiosity leads them to underestimate the danger that lurks beneath the surface. Some say that the Black Stream is not just a river, but a gateway, a portal between the living world and the realm of the dead. It is as if the water is a barrier between the two worlds, and anyone who dares to cross it becomes a part of the valley's dark history, their soul trapped beneath the water's surface for eternity. The force beneath the Black Stream is said to be invisible, a presence that exists within the river's depths, always lurking just out of sight. The water is unnaturally cold, even in the heat of summer, and it is rumored that those who swim too far into its depths are overcome by a feeling of dread, as though the water is trying to pull them under. Some claim to have felt icy hands clutching at their ankles, tugging at their limbs, dragging them toward the depths of the river where the shadows lie. The river's current, though not particularly strong, seems to possess an unnatural strength, pulling and twisting with a force that no human could ever hope to resist. Others speak of the strange creatures that are said to inhabit the river, creatures that exist in the dark, unseen world beneath the surface. Some believe these creatures are the manifestations of the spirits of those who have drowned in the river, twisted and warped by the dark energy that flows through the valley. These creatures are said to be humanoid in shape, but with features that defy nature, eyes that glow in the darkness, eyes that are too wide, too filled with sharp teeth. They are said to dwell in the river's depths, waiting for the next soul to wander too close. And when they strike, they are swift, dragging their victims into the blackness of the water before they can even cry out. It is not just the creatures or the unseen force that makes the black stream so dangerous. It is the eerie, malevolent atmosphere that surrounds it. The river seems to have a hold over the land, warping the very fabric of reality. The air around the river feels heavy, thick with an unnatural stillness. Even the birds and animals avoid the water as though they sense something dark and dangerous lurking beneath. The land surrounding the black stream is often shrouded in mist, and the water itself has a strange, oily sheen, as though it has been touched by something far older and far darker than the valley itself. There are those who have claimed to hear voices emanating from the river, soft whispers carried on the wind, calling out to them, beckoning them closer. The voices are always indistinct, impossible to understand, but their pull is undeniable. Some who have heard the voices report feeling a sudden compulsion to step closer to the water, to lean over its edge and peer into the depths. But those who give in to this compulsion never return. The river seems to draw them in with an irresistible force, as though it is feeding on their curiosity, on their fear, and once they are gone, the river returns to its tranquil appearance, as though nothing ever happened. There are also stories of people who have returned from the river's edge, their minds broken by what they have seen. These survivors speak of strange visions, of seeing the faces of those who have drowned in the river, their eyes wide open and staring, their bodies floating just beneath the surface. They speak of hearing the voices of the dead, calling to them from the depths, their whispers filled with sorrow and anger. These survivors are often left with a lingering sense of dread, a fear that the river has marked them, that it will come for them again when they least expect it. The black stream is more than just a river. It is a presence, an ancient force that has existed in the valley for as long as anyone can remember. It is the lifeblood of Vallée des Fantômes, and yet it is also its greatest danger. For in its depths lies an unseen force, one that is patient, persistent, and hungry. And for those who venture too close, the black stream has a way of claiming them, drawing them into its dark embrace, where they will remain lost, forgotten, and forever part of the river's haunted history. In the depths of Vallée des Fantômes, the forest is unlike any other. It is a place of shadows and secrets, a place where the trees seem to grow taller and darker with each passing year, their gnarled branches reaching toward the sky like twisted fingers. But there is something even more unsettling about this forest, something that has made it the subject of whispered legends for centuries. The trees, it is said, are not just silent witnesses to the passing of time. They are sentinels, watching, waiting, their eyes ever vigilant. Known as the Whispering Woods by those who live in the valley, the forest has a reputation for being alive with an unnatural energy. It is a place where the air is thick with mystery, where the very ground seems to pulse with an ancient power. Those who have ventured into the forest often speak of an overwhelming sense of being watched, of eyes following their every move, even though there are no people around. But the trees themselves are not human. There are those who claim that the forest is not as empty as it seems. The whispering woods are home to the eternal watchers beings that are said to exist within the trees themselves, their eyes embedded in the bark, their spirits entwined with the ancient roots of the forest. But the eternal watchers are not ghosts, nor are they spirits of the dead. They are something older, something more primal, guardians of the forest, protectors of its secrets. Some say they are the spirits of ancient druids, their souls bound to the trees they once revered. Others claim that the watchers are manifestations of the forest's power, creatures born from the land itself, woven into the very fabric of nature. Whatever their origin, the watchers are a force to be reckoned with. Their eyes are said to be everywhere, hidden within the bark of the trees, watching from the shadows, observing every soul that dares to enter their domain. These are, in effect, the head angels of the watchers. The eyes of the eternal watchers are not like those of any living creature. They are vast and all-seeing, glowing faintly in the darkness, often only visible out of the corner of one's eye. They are the color of the forest itself, dark, earthy tones that blend seamlessly with the bark of the trees, making them nearly impossible to spot unless you know what to look for. Some say the eyes move, shifting from one tree to another, while others claim that once you've seen them, they never leave you. The watchers are said to follow those who venture too deep into the woods, their gaze never faltering, always lingering just out of reach. But the eyes are not just passive observers. They are said to be capable of influencing the thoughts and actions of those who cross their path. There are stories of people who have entered the forest with one purpose in mind, only to find themselves inexplicably drawn off course, lured deeper into the woods by an unseen force. It is as though the eternal watchers have the power to manipulate the very fabric of reality within the forest, guiding travelers down paths that lead to nowhere, distorting their sense of time and direction. Those who have wandered too far into the whispering woods often speak of strange phenomena, whispers in the wind, voices that call their names from unseen places, the rustling of leaves that seems to echo with words of warning. Some say that the watchers are not content to simply observe. They are capable of communicating, of reaching into the minds of those who enter their domain. The whispers are said to be voices of the forest itself, cryptic and enigmatic, urging travelers to turn back, to leave before it is too late. But those who heed the warnings are few and far between. Most, entranced by the whispers, press on, driven by a curiosity they cannot explain, until they find themselves lost in a maze of trees, unable to escape the pull of the forest's gaze. For those who continue to push deeper into the forest, the experience becomes more intense. The eyes of the watchers grow larger, more prominent, and it becomes impossible to ignore them. They are everywhere, peering out from the trees, from the shadows, watching from every angle. The air becomes thick with tension, and a sense of foreboding fills the heart of the traveler. It is said that once you've seen the eyes, there is no escaping them. What? They follow you even when you leave the forest, lingering in the corners of your vision, their gaze always watching, never relenting. There are those who believe that the eternal watchers are not simply guardians of the forest, but protectors of something far more precious, something hidden deep within the woods. It is said that the forest holds ancient secrets, relics of a time long forgotten, and that the watchers are the keepers of these secrets, ensuring that they are never uncovered. Watchmakers use the creation of the gods as a tool to maintain their life. Some claim that the watchers will go to great lengths to protect the mysteries of the forest, manipulating the thoughts of those who come too close, ensuring that no one uncovers the truths buried beneath the earth. Over the centuries, there have been whispers of those who have entered the whispering woods and never returned. They are said to have been claimed by the watchers, their souls bound to the trees, their bodies lost to the forest's depths. Some believe that the Watchers have the ability to trap the souls of the lost, holding them captive in the forest, their eyes forever watching the world they can no longer touch. The idea of being trapped in the forest, bound to the trees for eternity, is a fate that terrifies even the bravest souls. As night falls over the valley, the whispering woods take on an even darker tone. The eyes of the eternal Watchers seem to glow brighter in the moonlight, their gaze more intense, more insistent. The forest becomes a labyrinth of shadows, each turn leading deeper into the unknown. The whispers grow louder, the pull of the Watchers stronger. Those who enter the forest at night find themselves lost, their sense of reality distorted by the presence of the Watchers, who are always watching, always waiting. The eternal Watchers are not just a legend, they are a presence, a force that has existed in the forest for as long as anyone can remember. They are the eyes of Vallée des Fantômes, and they see everything. They are the protectors of the forest's dark secrets, the guardians of the ancient power that lies hidden beneath the earth. And for those who venture too deep into their domain, the price of curiosity may be higher than they could ever have imagined. The Whispering Woods are not a place for the faint of heart. In the presence of the Watchers, all who enter are forever marked, their lives entwined with the ancient, unblinking gaze of the forest's eternal sentinels.